Today we continue our NHL season preview series looking at the Vancouver Canucks as we make our way through the Pacific Division. What should we expect from them in the upcoming 22-23 season? Can they duplicate what they did under Bruce Boudreau and have a better year? We'll discuss that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're previewing the upcoming 22-23 season for the Vancouver Canucks. If you're new to this series, what we're going to do first is we're going to recap the 21-22 season, take a look at how things went, and analyze a few key team statistics, look at how they've done in recent playoff years, take a look at how the team has changed, and discuss any prospects that might have an impact on this team, and then look at their projected lineup and how we feel they're going to do this year. So let's get started by looking back and seeing how the Vancouver Canucks did in 21-22. They finished, after a bad start, they worked their way up and finished in 5th place with a record of 40-30-12 for a 92-point season. Certainly we saw a coaching change last year. Travis Green did not have a good start to the season. And of course, Bruce Boudreau came in a little bit before the halfway point of the year, kind of righted the ship. And things certainly got better under Bruce. It also didn't help last year that they had Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson's contract negotiations really drag on and well into training camp. So that they missed a lot there. And to me, they started slow, especially Pettersson. And he just never completely found it until it was a little bit too late. Like Pettersson finished the season really strong, and we've seen that quite a bit with players who miss training camp or even big chunk of it, that they sometimes get behind the 8 ball, and it takes so much time to get caught up that it's hard to have a full season being productive all year. But he did finish strong, and I know Canucks fans and the Canucks management and ownership are certainly hoping he'll pick up where he left off. They scored 249 goals last year for 18th best in the league. That certainly needs to get a little bit better, but like I said, the second half was certainly stronger. If they can continue what they were on pace for then, they will certainly do better than that, even with plus, of course, they made some changes to the roster as well. Goals against was really good, though, 236, 8th best. The power play was strong, 23.5% success rate for 9th best. The PK, though, was a lot to be desired, 74.9% for 30th best. So, to me, for a team who defended well, 5-on-5, they did not do so on the PK. A lot of that, to me, had to do with personnel to some extent and structure, and I think that's an area of focus. Again, I think that should get better based on the options they now have to put out there. I think they have a better group that it's not going to fall on so much of the same players a lot. I think we saw a guy like Bo Horvat, for example, was kind of forced into taking a lot of defensive zone starts, a lot of defensive zone key faceoffs, and he still did well offensively, but because of the strong two-way game and all the, he was kind of, to me, it was a workhorse for this team. And I wonder sometimes if he just might have been a little more tired than he should be. And they have some more guys now that will kind of take that pressure off. So we'll see how things go on that front. Of course, head coach Bruce Boudreau, like I said, took over partway through the season. Under Boudreau, went with a record of 32-15-10. So that's certainly way better than they started. So obviously, that is something they want to continue on. They came up a little bit short of the playoffs at 92 points. It was a little bit too late, but certainly, like I said, we saw a lot of good things. Of course, the GM, Patrick Allvin, still fairly new to the role, along with Jim Rutherford, after both of those guys also came to the Canucks early last season as well. And of course, in the playoffs, we didn't make the playoffs last year, of course. They've only made the playoffs once in the last 7 years, and that was the COVID season when they came back and did the play-in round. Of course, the Canucks were one of the teams that were high enough ranked to get into that, and they won. So they technically won the play-in and theoretically made the playoffs. Losing in round 2 is a nice little fun run, kind of set them up, and of course, the next year didn't really continue on as planned. So obviously, they want to get back to the playoffs. They feel like they have a lot of the good pieces involved here. A big part of their offseason as well was getting JT Miller signed to a long-term extension, the 99-point player from last year who led the Canucks in many offensive statistical categories. Certainly was a big piece, and many expected him to be traded after the contract negotiations did not going well. And a lot of the public comments and various interviews and media with Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin it certainly didn't sound realistic that Miller was going to get signed. Now we find ourselves in a similar spot with Bo Horvat. Of course, he himself also due for an extension, has not received one as of yet. No terms have been agreed upon, although negotiations are taking place. And I will say that based on comments from Rutherford, I honestly do have some concerns over whether or not it gets done. I would think it's that they want to, and it's the right thing to do. I think he's a good captain and a good piece of that Canucks roster. But, I just based on the comments and the language that we're hearing, I do have some concerns on whether it will get done. I know he even said, Rutherford, that with Miller, in his situation, they were really worried they were going to end up losing Miller and Bo. And, of course, now that they get Miller signed, he said it takes the pressure off. So I hope that's not, a fact that they don't have to try so hard to get Horvat under contract. I know that they do have their cap situation, which isn't fantastic to deal with, but I don't think those are the right guys to look to make some necessary space. Now let's examine how the team has changed this offseason. First up, they did go into free agency and make some nice additions without having to give up anything as well, which is the good part. But of course, they signed Ilya Mikheyev, who comes from the Toronto Maple Leafs, brings a ton of speed, had a good offensive season. He's a good penalty killer, and certainly somebody, like I said, who can join that PK, become a shorthanded threat, and he can also projects like he should play a top 6 role and add some more speed up front and another scoring threat. So Mikheyev, to me, the contract might seem a little rich, but they're going to expect more from him than he gave in Toronto. And right now, I think I'm okay with the contract given what the opportunity presents itself, but things have to work out for him. Otherwise, that could be a major strike against the cap if things don't work well and it becomes a bad contract. But right now, I think he'll play a top 6 role and should be able to live up to it. Curtis Lazar joins the team on a longer-term deal as well to really solidify your bottom 6. To me, this is a great pickup. Lazar has become the ultimate fourth liner, good on draws, penalty killing, defensively. Like he'll chip in a bit offensively, but I think he'll be a nice addition there. And of course, they bring in Andrei Kuzmenko, the KHL free agent who was coveted by a bunch of teams. And of course, Canucks won the rights to get Kuzmenko, and so far I think he'll be a good fit there. He's had a good preseason so far. They also have Danny DeKeyser on a PTO right now. Like I said, this video may be a few days making it to YouTube, so by the time this airs, it might be a decision already made on that PTO, and he may or may not have a contract with the Vancouver Canucks. Now, looking at the key subtractions, nothing overly, real significant here. Backup goalie Jaro Halak is gone. Bradley Hunt, Alex Chason don't get re-upped, and that's about it. So nothing really crazy off this roster. This is largely the same group with a little bit of tweaking, and the tweaking, to me, it was good. Like, you add Mikheyev, Lazar, Kuzmenko, but you don't really lose a whole lot off the roster. To me, that's pretty good. That's a good offseason from the management group. Obviously, it goes to show I think they might believe in this roster more than they may have let on. At the same time, I think there would have been more trades. They just proved difficult to do, and the prices were high on some of these players. I think some of these guys, that there's a few on the roster I think that they would have liked to have moved, and they just couldn't get the deals done because of what teams were asking for in return. So we'll see. Like, I think some players, like, for example, Tyler Myers, maybe even OEL or Pearson, like, those are probably the key guys that they probably would have looked and had trade talks around. And I just think the prices were too much to pull the trigger. So prospects. Do they have prospects that can jump into this roster and make an impact this year? And I'm going to say not a lot. I think, honestly, this is a team who's had a lot of their top young talent graduate to the NHL. Look at the last number of years here since this team has kind of picked up its steam a little bit. You've seen Pettersson and Hughes and Besser and Hoglander and all these guys. Podkolzin's another one that's in the lineup coming over. So to me, a lot of their talent is there. The prospect pool now is not so deep anymore. But Jack Rathbone, to me, is a defenseman who should play more this year. Might even start as a top 6 guy, depending on injuries and stuff on that blue line. But Rathbone, to me, will get more opportunity. Michael DiPietro is a prospect to watch, not because I think he's going to play. I think we're going to see Demko and Martin. But at the same time, I think DiPietro is a player who's been wanting a trade, and it has not materialized as of yet. So I do think that's going to be a name we're going to hear about here in the early part of the season, and something might materialize soon. I don't think that their wishes have really changed on that front between he and his agency. Now, looking at the projected lineup for the Canucks going into opening night, I suspect we're probably going to see a top line of Miller and Besser, possibly flanked by Tanner Pearson. At least that's the way things look right now, but to me, I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a guy like Connor Garland put up there, but at the same time, I think they're trying to balance their lines out here just a little bit that way and go more with duos. I think you're going to see a second line of Kuzmenko, Pettersson, and Mikheyev. That line could be pretty dangerous, and they've shown good chemistry so far early in the preseason. Mikheyev did have a bit of an injury scare, but so far things look good as far as not missing much time. Horvat should center your third line with Podkolzin and Garland, assuming that they leave Pearson up there with Miller and Besser. Then your fourth line could be a combination of Nils Höglander, Jason Dickinson, and Curtis Lazar. Now, there's been some talk that Höglander may get sent to the minors, and that might be a possibility. I guess we'll see. Playing fourth line minutes might not be what's best for his development, but we'll have to wait and see. Lazar, for sure, will be on that fourth line. I suspect Dickinson likely will be as well. Of course, a lot of this is going to depend on injuries and stuff as well, so we'll have to see. On the blue line, you're going to have your six defensemen likely be Hughes, Shen, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Myers, Dermott, Pullman, or Rathbone. I'm not sure what the status of Tucker Pullman is. I'm not sure he's going to be able to play, at least to start the year, so that's going to probably create an opportunity for Rathbone should there be an opening there, and we'll see on what they do with the Kaiser as well. Of course, Demko and Martin will make up your goaltending tandem. Now, how will the Canucks do this upcoming season? Well, they had a decent offseason, I will say that. I like their additions, so I don't think the team is going to get worse. That's for sure. I do wonder, though, that how good this blue line is going to be. The blue line, to me, is the bigger concern. I think they'll be pretty steady offensively. Boudreau typically runs a pretty solid offensive style of game, so I think that'll be a good fit for a lot of these guys. I know Brock Besser as well is going to be out. He's obviously suffered an injury, so as much as I projected him on the first line, I do suspect he will be there when he's ready and able to play. But of course, he could be out as well. There's going to be some injuries here which will impact this lineup as well, so don't put a lot of stock into that. That's more than anything based on the depth chart, based on what different reporters are projecting for the Canucks right now. But certainly, I don't think they're going to be any worse off, but looking at last year, I'm not sure that they're going to be better than teams like Edmonton or Calgary. I think they'll be in competition with teams like LA and Vegas. So to me, they're going to be somewhere around 4th or 5th is where I project them to be. I don't know that LA, who was the third place team last year, will get bumped out of that spot. You never know. But I think they'll be in competition for Vegas. And I don't know that they're going to do a whole lot better. I think their division is getting tougher as Edmonton and Calgary are strong. You get Vancouver, LA, Vegas are all pretty good. I think they should finish ahead of the California teams, so they're not too farther down. But I do not sure really. I question whether or not this team can be a playoff team. I really do. Like I said, the blue line to me is the biggest concern. So I think they'll be able to score. I just wonder their ability to defend. Thatcher Demko's a marvelous goaltender, but I wonder, how much can he take given the shots against and chances against could be high. And the PK, was the weak point last year. I suspect it'll be better this year, but how much can it improve? As the question with the defenseman they can put out there. That's another concern of mine. Of course, they do have some off-ice stuff going on as well right now, which is, I wonder and hope won't be a distraction. But of course, the owner, Francesco Aquilini, was recently accused of child abuse by his own children in family court. So I know that's going to be a story that kind of dogs this team a little bit as well. Shouldn't impact it on the ice, but I do wonder if it'll be any kind of a distraction. And, of course, Rachel Dory recently left this team as well. She was hired in the offseason originally to be part of the analytics department, and she was supposed to be, on Bruce Boudreau's coaching staff. And then, mysteriously, all of a sudden, she is gone from the organization. Nobody's talking. There are some people that think that the reason that might have happened, this is not proven at all, at least as of I recording this video. But there was reports from Frank Saravalli that Mikheyev might have suffered a more serious ACL injury. Now, that's not the case, and he's going to be skating this week, and he should be fine. But there are reports out there that some people think that maybe she's the one who leaked that information to Frank, and that maybe the team didn't like it and turfed her. Now, I can't say that that's what happened. That's purely speculation. I really have no idea if that happened or not, and I'm not going to speculate on. I don't have an opinion on it because I really don't have a sweet clue. Now, if that's the reasoning, then I understand it. But just a couple of things, like I said, going on off the ice, that I wonder if it's going to impact or distract the team. I mean, Bruce Boudreau was asked, he wouldn't comment on her vacating the role, but he was also asked, will you be hiring another assistant coach to replace her? And he said that decision wasn't up to him. So I don't know what to make of that. I mean, I know that theoretically, like, management would have final say, but you would think at this point, after she'd been gone for a few days, that Bruce and Rutherford and Alvin would have talked enough to decide if they're going to replace her or not. It just seemed odd. So, like I said, I hope these off-ice issues don't distract them and create any other bad media for the team. But we'll see. This team is going to be fighting to get back into the playoffs. I know Bruce Boudreau is only, I believe his contract that he got was only for the current season, and that they want to wait and see how things go before they extend him further. And like I said, I think they'll be at least as good as or better than they were to end the season. It's just going to be tough in their division, that they might have a hard time getting up higher than fourth, and that might not guarantee them a playoff spot. But I think they'll certainly be fun and entertaining to watch on the ice, and we'll see. But I think it's going to be tight, and by no means is it a guarantee that they get into the playoffs. But let me know your thoughts on the Vancouver Canucks upcoming season, what your expectations are. We'll discuss further in the comments. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.